Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our event here today, hosted by the Ontario Network of CAPC, CPNP Projects, and the Ontario Region Public Health Agency Canada office. And my name is Sydney Bell, and I am the network lead for the Ontario Network of CAPC, CPNP Projects. Our network is a place where staff from over 170 CAPC and CPNP projects come together and connect and learn together. And we're pleased to welcome you to our event today. And I would like to begin things by taking a moment and acknowledging the land. And the organization I work for, Camino Wellbeing and Mental Health, is the sponsor agency for our Ontario network of CAPC CPNP projects. Our offices are in Southwest Ontario on Treaty 4 territory, and this is an area known as the Haldeman Tract. This is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Chinatown people. We are coming together today as a network of CAPC and CPNP projects from all across Ontario, and we have guests with us from across the nation. And as we begin this day of celebrating children in anticipation of November 20th, National Child Day, I'd like to offer gratitude to the First Peoples of the territories for sharing this land where we work and serve to support families. Miigwech, miigwech. So again, we're really pleased to welcome you to our event. We'll be keeping everybody muted until the Q&A at the end of the event. So please feel free to post any questions or comments in the chat as we go, and we'll be keeping an eye on questions for Dr. Clinton. I wanted to give you all a heads up that when we wrap up today, we will be giving away 3 copies of Jean's book, Love Builds Brains. So we're pretty excited about that. Blanca and I will be posing questions from Jean's talk at the end, and you'll have a chance to win by entering your answers in the chat. I want to say, if you do put your name forward or make a guess to win a book, that you must take the responsibility of contacting me by email, which I will put in the chat, and just letting me know that you are one of our 3 winners. So that's it for me for now. I want to pass things over to Blanca from the Public Health Agency of Canada to say hello. Blanca.
Thanks, Sydney. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our National Child Day celebration. My name is Blanca Serrano. I work for the Public Health Agency of Canada with CAPC and CPNP projects in Ontario. And I'm so excited to see so many of you today. Thanks for taking the time of your business, your busy schedules, joining together for this celebration. National Child Day is on November 20th. We're celebrating a little bit early, but it's great because then we can have more celebrations throughout the month. On this day, Canada celebrates children and recognizes the commitment to upholding their rights, and also the commitment to historic events. The 1959 signing of the UN Declaration of the Rights of the Child, and the adoption of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1989. Canada signed the convention in 1991. Our programs, CAPC and CPNP, announced in 1993 and 1995, are a very important part of Canada's response to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. So we have a global investment in our programs, which are very important across communities. Our regional office, our team, our Healthy Child Development team in the Ontario Regional Office began hosting National Child Day celebrations in 2006. And our main goal was, at the time, to raise awareness among other staff that had other health portfolio files, to raise awareness about the issues that were affecting children and families in Ontario and in Canada. And we mainly wanted to really profile, showcase, and celebrate the important work of CAPC CPNP projects in supporting families and children. We invited local projects and stakeholders at the time to come to our office in Ontario and share about their work and how they were impacting families and children across communities. It was always a very popular, well-received event, and people really appreciated learning about the importance of these programs. In 2020, the Ontario CAPC CPNP Network and our team began a collaboration to host the event. And it was really great because then we were able to open it up to everyone and join together in celebration, invite our national office colleagues and projects from across Canada. And it's really great that we've had over the years an opportunity to celebrate together, but also recognizing that it's a time for reflection and a call to action to do better for our kids, our youth, our families. Canada ranks 66 in the Global Child Rights Index. So we know for sure and definitely that we need to do better with our commitment and investments for children. So today it is about celebration and also celebration of you, your work every day, that you support families in your communities to really deliver life-changing programming, because it really is truly life-changing what you do. So we're here to celebrate you as well, and very excited about our guest speaker. I think I can go ahead and introduce Jean right now. We're going to get right into it because we're really here to hear from Dr. Jean Clinton. Dr. Jean Clinton, I don't think she needs an introduction, but I really I want you to know all about her. Is a clinical professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Neurosciences at the McMaster University in Ontario. She has served as education advisor to the Premier of Ontario and the Ministry of Education. She's a trainer in Dr. Bruce Perry's neurosequential model of education, collaborates closely with Michael Fallon in his new pedagogies for deep learning team. She is a fellow of the Child Trauma Academy and has been a Theatre 3 Academy Fellow since 2013. For over 35 years, Dr. Clinton has been a consultant to children and youth mental health programs, child welfare, and primary care. She has a keen interest in brain development and the crucial role that relationships, belonging, and connectedness play. Dr. Clinton believes in compassionate, competency-based learning system that fosters deep learning and relational focus. She advocates for an education that enriches both learning and life, leading to a better sustainable world. Dr. Clinton is an author of her first book, a great book, Love Builds Brains. And if I had to personally introduce my own introduction of Dr. Clinton, I would say she's the most amazing child psychiatrist I've ever met that really gets it, and the strongest voice that we have for early and infant mental health. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Jean Clinton.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted, Jean.
Yeah. No, not yet. Still not hearing you. I think I need to switch my... Okay, now try.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Good. Yes.
Is that
and your
working?
slide. Yes, your slide looks good.
Don't you just love technology? Oh my goodness. No matter how many times, like I can't tell you how many thousands of times. So Blanca, thank you so, so much for that kind introduction. And my message to you today is going to be that the work that you do in CAPC and CNPN is the fundamental and essential work to change and build children's trajectories to be different than what the bloody statistics say these kids are going to turn out to be. So I am here to celebrate all the work that you do. I'm going to try and move my slides. We've had some technical difficulties, but one of the things I want to really talk about is that what we are now talking about in terms of our programs and the wonderful, effective, evaluative programs that you deliver is that if you take it and put it beside, like in the same canoe as the wisdom of the elders, what you see is a beautiful, beautiful consilience, a connection, that the work that you are doing is actually building the brains, the hearts, the souls of children and young or not so young parents to think about and dream about what are the best interests for the next 7 generations. And so when I think about what about the next 7 generations, what do we need to do to create a world that is creating the future that in 7 generations we're going to say, we did this right. We thought deeply, we thought hard about it. And when we think about the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, we would be able to, 7 generations from now, say, we listened, we did it, we got it. But in order to do that, we so deeply need to think about the development of the whole child. And, I do lots of work in education, as you heard in the introduction there. And too often people think about the early years and think about school readiness. And when they think about school readiness, they think about literacy and numeracy. But man, oh man, take that, push that to the side. Is still in there. But what we know about what makes such a big difference is children's competencies in social and emotional learning and the ability to problem solve, to get along, to have empathy. And what we know is that when you focus on the development of a sense of belonging and relationships is central, you're completely changing the trajectory and the possibility. But we've gone through a pretty tough time. That's a little bit of an understatement, and apologies for my hiccups here. But we know that we have this COVID baby issue where, for one reason or another, there's been reduced interactions with other babies and adults, and the results are showing, they may affect development. But not only that, so we've got the baby's development, but we also have the maternal development, where through COVID, we've had rates of anxiety and depression among pregnant individuals way, way higher than they were before. What does that say to me as the optimist? Thank God for you. Thank goodness for the programs that you offer, to be able to come to parents and help them think about how can we make Canada the best place to raise a child. So in 2016, looking at the well-being of children and youth under age 18, we were 30 out of 38. When we looked at in 2022, where are we in terms of how we're educating and supporting and thinking about climate change? We were 28. So, the question that was posed at the beginning was, are we doing enough? And the answer is overall, no. We absolutely are not. But we really need to be looking at the work that you do, the relationships, the connection, the sense of belonging that you create in families who have social and emotional and socioeconomic challenges, problem-saturated lives, and we really need to take the principles that you know so much in your heart and take them to all of our families. So, big report came out 2 years ago, Children First. 10 things that affect our children. So, look at number 2, poor mental health. Number 3, systemic racism and discrimination. Child abuse, I was gobsmacked to read that 60% of the children under 15 that reported in this survey said that they had experienced some form of physical or verbal child abuse. I used to talk about that percentage in the US, but now, oh my Lord, to think of it as what Canadian children are experiencing. And so we've got poverty and food. We had this beautiful vision that we could end poverty and food instability, insecurity in children. We didn't meet it. We didn't meet it. Infant mortality, we're doing a bit better. Bullying, we suck. My friend Tracy Viancourt is just about to report on what the statistics are about the percentage of kids, but in the Canada First, they talk about 7 out of 10, 70% of children experience bullying. So do you know what the answer to all of these queries is? We can do better. We must do better. And one of the great frames that I love from my work with Landon Pearson and Nora Spinks from the Vanier Institute is, if we embrace truly the Convention on the Rights of the Child, if we really say, I have the right to be heard, how often do we get children's perspectives? I have the right to live in a home, in a neighborhood. I could tell you research project after research project about how important it is for green spaces, for walkable neighborhoods, to make kids feel really connected. I have the right to live with and be cared for by my family. Oh my goodness, I know you guys agonize when you're dealing with families, particularly I think of Indigenous families whose kids are removed from their care and go to communities that have no contextual literacy about what that child experiences has been. I have the right to have friends. When we think about our kids, when we think about inclusion, our EDI thoughts, do we think about the F words of disability, family, fun, friends, function, fitness? Do we think about them? Or do we think mainly about how can I get this kid closer to being normal? It's so outdated thinking like that. How can I get the family, the community, the ecosystem to be thinking about How can I support this child to reach the potential that we don't even know that they can reach? Then, you know, we have a very sad reality about how many children and families are going to food banks. Thank goodness for you and the work that you do to let families know where they can access nutritional food and clothing. But are we doing enough, Canada? I'm afraid the answer is a very, very big no. And then, wow, listen to our young people. I have the right to a healthy earth to live on. Young people are saying, listen to me. Listen to us. What has happened has not helped us. We worry about what's happening in the future. How can you be our allies? And then, of course, a huge favorite of mine is I have the right to play. And it's not just play. Play is a way that children absolutely learn. And as you're working with young parents or older parents and their young babies, you spend so much time helping them pick up the cues of their child, understanding what it is that the child is communicating, and then expanding on what they're learning and how they can learn most. That's what play is all about. And then we've got some pretty stark statistics about what happens when children are different from the quote, very much quote unquote norm. And when we look at statistics, and even in terms of bullying for LGBTQ 2+ kids, children, we see that their rates of bullying, but also the rates of depression and suicidal ideation and actual suicide is so high. So what this means to me is the work that you do in helping the parents be mindedness about the infants in their life, having them reflect on who they are as people, what their beliefs are, and where they come from. Also, by the way, making sure they've got enough to eat and they've got enough money to pay I have to watch my language here, the love rent. I don't mean lovely. But what we need to think about is all of those components. Because at the end of the day, what we know so profoundly is that when kids and parents feel safe, secure, and healthy, they thrive. They learn. If they don't feel safe, their inner workings of their brain, their fight, flight, freeze part of their brain is firing when they don't feel safe. And what we know so clearly is that when that's firing, you absolutely cannot do new learning. The upper parts of the brain get shut off because you're thinking about survival, not about, oh, isn't this an interesting dilemma? Not at all. You're saying, how can I survive this freaking moment right now? So what you do, I want to say again, is building brains. Your brain is not just provided by your genes or produced by your genes, it's sculpted by a lifetime of experience. And what you're doing in your programs is offering the parents and the children an alternative narrative about how life might unfold. And when I say an alternative narrative, I don't mean I can tell a nice story about how my kids grow up, but I'm actually talking about how the experiences that the children have who you support, how their experiences, the loving, nurturing, predictable, supportive relationships that the parents see modeled by you, and then they do, how that actually affects the development of the brain. So what we know is the brain matters. It's the organ responsible for absolutely everything we do. What we find funny, learning how to walk, how to love, how to talk, is a reflection of the experiences that we have. And, this is Dr. Bruce Perry who says the brain is an environmental organ. Now, we think about the lungs and we think, oh, yeah, it's an environmental organ because it really gets affected by, how much pollution there is and if there's smoking and all of that stuff. But let me tell you that the brain is even more of an environmental organ because the lungs don't determine the experience, and what's exposed doesn't determine how big the lungs are. But with the brain, the experiences absolutely determine how big the brain is going to be, what connections and what networks are going to be connected, and what areas get snipped away. So there's 86, I don't even know what this number means, just a whole lot. When I look up and I can't see the Milky Way, I think, man, oh man, that's a freaking lot of stars up there. Well, that's what we have in the human brain. And what we know about this is that when a stimulus comes in, like you coming in and talking to the parents about, oh, did you just see how your baby smiled when you did that? Kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. Synapses are building in the parent's brain and they then connect into the child's brain. Because as they are mindedness, as they put themselves in the shoes of the child, as it were, then they can reflect back. They can reflect back on their glory, their awe, their joy. And that builds these neuronal connections. So a really important principle that you probably all know is that the brain develops in a use-dependent development way. So the more a system, reading system, attachment system, language system, the more that neural system is activated, that is, receives stimulation to come in, the stronger it gets. This is the basis for developmental learning, memory. And so, I could tell you all kinds of research studies about this, but I want to show you a little video that I absolutely love. I hope it works. Let's see. Sydney, you can tell me.
Yes, I will.
Mamá, vos y yo tenemos que hablar. ¿Por qué no comes la papa? Explícamelo. Explícamelo. 15 meses tenés. 15 No te rías. No te rías. Te cocino. No, escuchá, te hago zapallo con papa. Zapallo con papa, con pollito, todo procesado. Tiene queso mantecoso, queso cremoso, eso tiene nutrientes, vitaminas, calcio. ¿Por qué no comes? Explícame, dale.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. The
We heard
build.
it. It was wonderful.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Sydney. The building of the brain happens by serve and return, by the back and forth. And as you look at that, what I hope you think about is how many back and forth, reciprocal, respectful interactions have happened with that mum, that mama, and that little one. It shows up in why don't you like my potatoes? But it really reflects so much more than that. And here's a lovely video that I'd love for you to be able to share with your family.
Did you know that you can help build a child's brain? Everyday interactions can have a big impact on developing brains throughout childhood, starting even before babies can talk.
Scientists call this serve and return, like a game of tennis or ping pong. A child serves by showing an interest in something, and the adult responds in a supportive way.
Finding moments throughout the day to do it is easy and fun, and you'll be building strong brains. You can use 5 steps to practice serve and return with any child. Step 1, share the focus.
When a child is interested or curious, you can see it.
What's this? It's a stroller.
Watch this child look at something in a book. Right there, pointing shows interest.
Wow.
So does making a sound, like this child. And mom is paying close attention.
See baby moving those little arms and legs and focusing on the ball? That's a serve.
The key is paying attention to what the child is noticing.
Oh, you like those guys too?
Look at grandpa sharing the focus.
By noticing serves, you will help build curiosity and you'll strengthen your relationship.
Step 2, support and encourage.
You can return a child's serve by saying a word of encouragement.
That's right. I'm good.
Watch Grandpa return this serve by saying thank you.
Thank you.
Even a facial expression can encourage a child.
Orange.
Or emotion,
A.
like this
You
mom
see
dancing.
Time. A.
You can also pick up the object that the child is pointing to and bring it closer.
You need help to sit her down.
Things like helping and playing with the child let them know that their thoughts and feelings are heard and understood. Step 3, name it.
Yeah, the puppy. See the windows, the house.
When you return a child's serve by naming what they are seeing, doing, or feeling, you make important language connections in their brain.
He's got bumps all over him, huh?
This brain building happens even before a child can talk or understand your words.
You can name anything, a person, a thing, an action, a feeling, or a combination.
Clean up. Everybody do your shit.
When you name what a child is focused on, you help build understanding of the world around us and what to expect from it.
The baby's sitting. Ooh, the baby's sitting in the back seat of the car.
You like those? Those are raisins. You have raisins all the time.
Naming also gives a child words to use later and shows that words are important to you.
Step 4, take turns back and forth.
Taking turns helps children learn self-control and how to get along with others.
Waiting is crucial. When you return a serve, give the child a chance to respond.
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
Note that the caregiver waits here for the next serve.
See this toddler navigating a new adventure? Grandpa is waiting patiently, returning serves by asking questions and then waiting to see what happens next.
Yeah.
You want to cover it?
Yeah.
Are you cold?
Yeah.
Oh, put this over your lap like this, okay? You like that?
Yeah.
Oh.
By waiting, you give the child time to develop ideas and build confidence and independence.
Step 5, practice endings and beginnings. Children signal when they're done or ready to move on to a new activity.
Watch how this child shows it's time to start something new. Letting go of a toy signals an ending. Then picking up a new toy signals the next beginning.
The giraffe.
Sharing the focus is important in this step.
Ooh, the big eagle.
Because this mom is sharing the focus, she notices when her child is ready to end one activity and begin something new.
When you can find these moments for a child to take the lead,
Try this one.
You support the child in exploring their world
Would you like to play with something else?
and make more serve and return interactions possible.
Sit there.
Serve and return interaction is critical for a child's developing brain. And the best news is that you can do it anytime, anywhere, without any need for toys or technology.
Look for small opportunities throughout the day, like while you're making a snack or while you're grocery shopping. What matters most is that you're doing each of these 5 steps. Notice the serve and share the child's focus of attention. Return the serve by supporting and encouraging. Name it, take turns going back and forth, and practice endings and beginnings.
Serve and return interactions make everyday moments fun and become second nature with practice. Try practicing with a child today.
So, I know that you guys know this stuff inside out. But I share that video with you because I'm sure if you think about the families that you work with, to break it down into those kind of steps would be miraculous. The picking up of the child's cues, the being in sync with what the child is projecting and what you are receiving, expanding the possibilities so that more often children are experiencing adults in their lives whose eyes light up. What we know from the brain is we need to feel safe. When we feel safe, we can think. But if the lower parts of the brain that Bruce Perry talks about, if the lower parts of the brain, the amygdala, the emotional part of the brain is firing, you can't get to relating. You can't get to reason. You cannot reason of a temper tantrum. What that little one needs from a brain perspective is for you to be present, to help the mother, the father, the partner to be present with the child. It's time in that counts, not time out. And the last thing I want to talk about before we open up for questions is really to think about the impact of stress. And I want you to think about the parallel process of stress on the families and stress on you. And when you are stressed, we have this freaking negativity bias that, we can do something, we can work with a bunch of families and hear great things, but one family says a negative thing. Oh, that's what we perseverate on. Why do we do that? What's that all about? Well, the reality is we need to have a negativity bias because if we don't, when we come across a bear, we want to be focusing on how do I get out of here? We don't want a brain that says, oh my goodness, I had no idea you had big teeth and little teeth. And oh my goodness, is that blood? Or, ooh, maybe it's blueberries on your tongue. We need a system that says, I need to get out of here. We need a system that says, okay, a little bit of stress is okay, but a lot of stress, trauma, that kind of mucks up my brain. Because when there is toxic stress, too much going on, then my thinking brain can't work. My thinking brain needs to go offline because I need to be on the high alert, protect myself. What's the danger here? That's the situation with so many of the mums, the dads, the partners, and the kids that you work with. But what we know is that relationships connection, thinking about even if I am in a toxic stress situation, I can help this mum, this family create positive emotional experiences. I can buffer what's going on. The science is accumulating and it's marvelous. That even in the face of many ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, who you are, how you are with families can absolutely change what happens in that one-to-one repair and interaction with the child. You make a huge difference in the world of children. So I want to stop there. I hope that's okay. And we can think about what might be some of the questions that people
Sure.
have. We have about 10 minutes, I think. Is that right, Sydney?
That
Blanca?
sounds right to me. Yes, for sure. Thank you, Dr. Clinton. So I will, yes, please feel free to pop a question in the chat or to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question of our esteemed speaker.
I hope you all
Rebecca.
can tell that I love your program. Bum, 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 bum.
Absolutely. Rebecca in the chat expresses her appreciation to your insight and that this is a wonderful way to end the week. So just a bit of props for you in the chat there. Yeah. Well, does anybody else have a comment or a question for Dr. Clinton? We'd love to hear. Oh, here's a question in the chat from Kathleen. She asked, do you know any research on prenatal stress on developing fetuses?
Oh my goodness. Hi, my Kathleen. Hi. Kathleen and I did some work together, some beautiful, beautiful work together. Yeah, absolutely. So what we know from the MAVEN study, the maternal adversity and vulnerability and neurodevelopment, is that when there is high persistent stress in pregnancy, that the offspring of the babies, the babies have higher incidence of ADHD and other developmental disorders. The thinking is that the high stress in mum crosses the placental barrier, increases the cortisol and that whole HPA axis in the children, in the infant, in the fetus, that affects their development. But you know, we have to think about this as the brain and the environment that the infant is experiencing is preparing them for the world that they're going to enter. So if mom is experiencing all of these high stressors, then of course you want an infant who's going to be able to deal with all of those high stressors. And so, you know, we think, oh my goodness, it's so bad. But in fact, maybe it is it's leading to a sustainable future rather than so bad.
Thank you. Thank you. I see Mary Kate has made a comment around asking if brain developments in a typically developed child is similar to children with developmental diagnosis such as autism as far as parental engagement and nourishment is concerned. That question is in the chat there.
Yeah, a wonderful, absolutely wonderful question. And you know, what we know is that the in utero environment completely affects the development of the child. But the out of utero environment has a massive, massive influence on the development of the child that we had no idea. You know, in the early years of autism and refrigerator mothers and all of that kind of crapola, I shouldn't say that for my dear colleagues who were in the research field at that time. But what we know through the work of Stanley Greenspan and my dear colleague Stuart Shanker is that the work around developmental relational interaction can make a huge, huge difference. I have had so many patients over the years who had an aversion, like a almost phobic reaction when they drove past the site where they had intervention.
Mm.
And it makes me very, very deeply think about, are we thinking about the human here? Or are we thinking about the behavior here? And, you know, we could spend, Sydney, we could spend a whole
Yeah,
day
for sure. That's
talking about that.
a deep dive into that for sure could happen.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. Darlene has posted a question in the chat. She says, Dr. Clinton, wondering if you could speak to the research results of the impact of the full day learning in Ontario on our children's development.
Oh my goodness, thank you for that question. And the answer is, it depends.
Mm.
It really depends. So I have visited full day kindergarten programs that I would love my grandchildren to be part of, because the childhood educator and the trained teacher are thinking so simpatico about what is in the best interest of the children before us individually, not as a glump and a how do I need to make sure that they get these number of phonics into their brain. But I've visited classrooms that, oh my goodness, it's huge, the impact that they can have. Are the teams working well together? And are they thinking about, how am I developing lifelong learners? Rather than thinking about, how can we get through the day and make sure that they're getting ready for grade 1? To put it a little too bluntly, to be honest. Yeah.
It depends.
It depends.
Okay. Thank you.
Jean.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I had a question. It's something that we, hear often from our projects. I love that you shared that video on serve and return and how it was broken down. And as you said, we know everyone here, that's what they do every day. And they of course know it, but seeing it break down like that in that video, there is so much there of the science of infant and early mental health. But I think we're often asked, what innovation do we have? Be innovative, like as you present your programs. And I mean, of course, innovation is great, but this is how, this is the reality of a serve and return relationship based, and how we build brains. So any advice as to how we respond to that innovation question?
I love it. I love it, Blanca. And my response, you could probably predict, is we have the most incredible, innovative response to helping children and their developmental brain. And it's called following Indigenous lead, following the leads of the multicultural communities who come to Canada, who say, you know, it's not about independence, it's about interdependence. It's not about having words, language, and all these things. It's about caring about the world, caring about the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So I would dress it up very nicely to say that our Indigenous cultures, the Indigenous cultures of Canada, have a deep, deep rooted knowledge of what it is that kids need to survive and thrive and thrive. And we can tap into that.
Lovely.
So good. Thank you.
Jean, I see
You know
there's
what? You don't innovate. You don't innovate when the baseline isn't so great.
Mm.
You look at the baseline and say, how can I improve the foundations, the fundamentals?
Thank you.
Not an
great.
easy work that you have, though, Blanca, I know.
It's not, yes.
Jean, do you have time for, I see there's 2 more questions in the chat, if we maybe touch base on those
Sure.
quickly, and then we
Sure.
can move to our book giveaway. Angela, she thanks you for your insight, and she talks about receiving comments from parents I work with that they are extensively trying to enroll in Montessori daycares for better school readiness. Would there be any research that certain philosophy of child care centers are better?
Well, do you know what? My experience and my thoughts are it's more about the quality of the relationships than the programs that are offered. So if you're going into a program where their eyes light up when your child enters the room, go for it. Go for it. It doesn't matter whether it's Montessori or Reggio or what's the other that my grandchildren are in. It doesn't matter about those kinds of things as much as what matters is the relationships and the ecosystem that they're creating around the child. So I'd love Waldorf. I love Reggio. I love Montessori. But so much is dependent on who are you? How are you? Who you are and what you are as an educator is so much more important than the program you have to offer. The educator creates the weather in the classroom. How are you doing that?
I love that. And I love that if their eyes light up when they see your child, that's
Absolutely.
fairly strong indicator. So a last question here is from Diana, and she asks, what kind of indicators define that Canada being in 30th place of well-being for children, and where can I explore more about it?
Yeah, so if you look into UNICEF Canada, Lisa Wolf is a fabulous, fabulous CEO, but look into UNICEF Canada. And from there, you'll be able to explore the Innocenti reports that have been going on for many. We're at number 17 at this point in time. So please, please do it. Look into it, and then tell your frickin' politicians, pay attention here. Our kids are not doing well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for your questions and comments. And before we say goodbye to our special guest and sign off, we would like to take a few minutes to give away 3 copies of Dr. Clinton's book, Love Builds Brains. And So Blanca, do you have some possibilities? Do you have some possibilities for a question?
I do. I'm going to put it on the chat, and it's a true
Okay.
or false. So the
Okay.
first response is the winner.
Okay. Go ahead.
Why isn't it working?
Because it's that kind of a day. Okay, so can you see Blanca's question? Brain is, oh yeah,
Ooh.
people are responding.
Who
So
was
you
the first one? I'll find the first one.
I'll read out the question if I can get back there. Brain is solely produced by being born with good genes, true or false?
Brenda Meta was the first response. Our first winner, Brenda Meta.
Okay.
And of course it's false. That was easy.
Okay. And okay, I could do a question now. I should, okay. Okay, putting it in the chat here. And the question is, your brain is sculpted by blank.
Oh, Sherry. Sherry's the first one.
Sherry is the first one.
Let's see.
Experiences. And I saw Sherry Beaton had her name in there, her answer in there first.
Sherry Beaton, yeah.
Oh. Do you have another question, Blanca?
I do. What was the percentage that Dr. Clinton mentioned of children being affected by bullying? It's quite high.
Oh. I don't remember the answer to that.
Oh, someone, let's see. Mary Kate Santi. Wow. Okay. Yay.
Oh, that is awesome. Congratulations to everybody. And I did jot down people's names, but I am going to ask those 3 folks who won to follow up with me. Send me an email, please, and we'll get that copy of Love Builds Brains out to you. And also, maybe I'll put it in again because there's been a lot of action in the chat. If you would be so very kind to fill out a short survey about your time here with us today. The link is in the chat there as well, and that would be much appreciated. So, Blanca, is there anything you want to say as we're wrapping up?
Yes, well, just to thank Jean for being fabulous and everything. I did want to share a quick story. Many years ago, when I first met Jean, in her talk, she shared, you know, every child needs someone whose eyes light up when they walk in the room. And I was just like, oh my God, like that was a turning point in a lot of ways that I carried my career, my work, and I could see everyone in the room the same, right? Many years later, at a site, one of our CAPC projects, I was visiting, and one of the moms was sharing, and she had said that this program, and obviously she had heard Jean speak or read or something, and she had said, you know, that this program, I know my kid needs me to light up when they walk in the room, but there are many times when I'm not able to offer that, and this program does that for my kid. And I was just like, that was so, like, just so great to hear a parent, and it is what these folks do every day. And so I'm so grateful for all of you, and thank you. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I didn't mean to do this, but thank you so much. It is a celebration about you and what you do every day for families and children. So I hope on November 20th, you'd celebrate yourselves and your communities and the children and families. Thank you for coming.
Oh my goodness, Blanca. I could not close it in a better way. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clinton. Thank you, everybody who have joined us. We're being patient during our technical challenges, and yet it all turned out so beautifully. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day and weekend, and just treat yourself with kindness and compassion. And hopefully we shall see you again soon at an upcoming
Thanks,
event.
everyone. Thank you, Jean. Take care.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Anything for you guys.
Thank you. Take
Bye-bye,
care.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.